Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. Some massive news for this Michigan program coming out early Friday morning as Wink Martindale, the next defensive coordinator for this Michigan program, heading into 2024. This one wrapped up relatively quickly, right? You talk about 72 hours ago, we hopped on, talked about Wink Martindale emerging as a candidate. He interviews for the job Thursday afternoon, goes out to dinner with the coaching staff, gets offered the job, accepts the job Friday morning. Sherrone Moore has his next defensive coordinator heading into that 2024 year. And many of you guys who've been rocking with the fellas for the last couple of days, you know how I feel about this one. I think this is a home run hire. You talk about replacing Mike Macdonald and Jesse Minter, two of the best defensive coordinators that we saw in the college football level the last 3 years. You go out and get the defensive coordinator that Mike Macdonald and Jesse Minter worked under during the Baltimore Ravens. The whole narrative was going back to the Baltimore Ravens coaching tree, getting a guy that's going to be familiar with these schemes, with these concepts, because it worked the last 3 years. You went out and got the defensive coordinator from the Baltimore Ravens coaching tree, the head honcho, if you will. So in my mind, this is a phenomenal hire for this Michigan program that maintains continuity with the scheme and the language of this defense. But more importantly, you're going back to the NFL where you've had a ton of success hiring your defensive coordinators. I don't know what more you could have wanted in this defensive coordinator hire personally. I know some people disagree. Would love to hear from you guys in the comment section. We'll chop it up there. Before we get into the pros, the cons, and talk a little bit about what I've seen from Wink Martindale at the NFL level, just want to say thank you to you guys. And it truly has been a blast talking this program the last couple of days. Many of you guys know I'm a huge Michigan fan, so this has been a wild last 9 days. Cannot thank you guys enough for all the support you guys have shown the boys, all the input, all the feedback. Really does mean a lot. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. More importantly, would love to hear how you guys are feeling Friday morning about the Wink Martindale hire. And without further ado, let's get into this one. And I want to start with the pros of Wink Martindale. And the first starts with kind of the narrative that this was still a very highly respected defensive-minded coach at the NFL level. But it all worked out during his time at the New York Giants, and I feel like most people look at those 2 years and say, why would we want to hire a defensive coordinator that just got fired from the New York Giants? The answer is because the rest of the NFL still loved Wink Martindale. Wink Martindale was getting a lot of buzz for the Dallas Cowboys defensive coordinator job less than a week ago before Michigan kind of comes calling. This is a defensive coach that is highly respected at the NFL level. Now, the second thing, and this is by far the biggest pro for this hire, is that you are continuing the scheme and the terminology, excuse me, and what has made Michigan's defense so successful the last 3 years. Right? You look at the jump that this program took after Don Brown left and Mike Macdonald comes in, it was extremely meaningful. And yes, the talent on this defense no doubt got better, but how this defense was operated, the complexities, the different looks of this defense compared to the Don Brown defense, that was what really took this Michigan defense up to the next level. Right? You look back at that Don Brown defense, it was pretty much, we're going to send some pressure and we're going to play man coverage, very vanilla, did not disguise much. And when you saw us bump up against teams like Ohio State that had superior offensive talent, we didn't really stand a chance. Right? So you bring in a guy like Mike Macdonald, Jesse Minter, now Wink Martindale. What do you see? You see an NFL complex defense. Right? We're bringing a lot of different blitz packages, a lot of different coverage packages. We're putting a lot of bodies around the line of scrimmage. You don't really know who's coming, who's not. You saw Michigan on the defensive side of the football completely outclass that Alabama offense and really that Washington Huskies offense in the college football playoffs with how complex their defense was. Right? You got guys like Mikey Sandstro or Junior Colson or Mike Barrett all around the line of scrimmage. Offensive linemen don't really know who's coming, and you're being able to get a ton of pressure on the quarterback. You're confusing the quarterback in terms of the coverage that you're going to. You're going to continue all of those concepts with Wink Martindale taking over this job. And I think that's by far the biggest pro of this, is you're continuing the complexity in the scheme and the terminology that Mike Macdonald and Jesse Minter worked for the last 3 years to develop. And you saw those growing pains, right? Back to that 2021 season, you saw Mike Macdonald come in and really revolutionized this defense. But you saw some guys maybe a little bit confused in terms of assignments and responsibilities. It got much better when Jesse Minter took over, but continuing that scheme and terminology, and then was, arguably one of the best defenses that we've seen in the last 10 years in 2023 that won a national championship. And so if you hire Wink Martindale, it sounds like it's just going to continue to get better in that scheme and that terminology in 2024. That's by far, in my mind, the biggest pro. Now, you go to some other things that I think are really standing out that I like. One, he's a winner. He's won a Super Bowl championship with the Baltimore Ravens. You go back to his time at the college football level, coaching under Jack Harbaugh at Western Kentucky in 2002. He won a national championship at the college football level. So he's won a national championship, a Super Bowl. This is a guy that is a proven track record of being part of winning defenses. That I think really excites you. And then the last thing that I think is exciting in my mind is he's from the state of Ohio, right? Played his high school ball there, played his college ball there, has a lot of familiarity with that state, and make no mistake about it, Michigan, that's a massive state to have familiarity with and to have those relationships with. Right, we go to head-to-head with Ohio State on the recruiting trail consistently for top players in the state of Ohio. And Wink Martindale might be able to provide some juice in terms of going after some of those top guys in that state. And you look at what Wink Martindale brings to the table. He blitzes a lot, but it's calculated blitzes. It's very similar, in my mind, to what Mike McDonald and Jesse Minter did, right? They blitzed a lot, but they were disguised. They looked different. You didn't really know who was coming and who wasn't coming. You see the same type of stuff when you turn on the New York Giants film, right? A lot of bodies around the line of scrimmage. You have your nickel back. You have your linebackers. You might walk into safety. And at the end of the day, you got a ton of bodies around the line of scrimmage. You're not sure who's coming, who's dropping out into coverage. And at the college football level, that means so much because these offenses are much more simplified than they are at the NFL level. And so if you have the ability to really confuse the protection and confuse quarterbacks on who's coming, who's not, what coverage they're getting, that's meant massive things for this Michigan program the last couple of years. And again, you expect that to continue with Wink Martindale heading into 2024. Now, getting into probably like the cons, if you will, I would call them more question marks. One is recruiting. Right, this is a guy that hasn't been at the college football level in the last 10 years. So it's like, how can he come into the college football landscape and get it going on the recruiting trail? Now, we talked about this about 24 hours ago in the terms that Sherrone Moore, I think, is going to have a strong focus on hiring a defensive line coach that is going to be a very, very good recruiter. Right, those position coaches, when you elevate a guy like Kirk Campbell, when you elevate a guy like Coach Newsome, those are all the ace recruiters. You retain a guy like Steve Clinkscale. Those are all the best recruiters on this staff. And so you see Sherrone Moore put an emphasis on getting young, hungry recruiting coaches around your coordinators. And so, yes, do you have some question marks about Wink Martindale, whether he can recruit? Yes, because you don't know if he's a good recruiter or not. He very well could be a very good recruiter, but you're surrounding him with guys that probably are going to be very good recruiters at the position coach spots. And the second thing about recruiting, you take a look at what these kids want to get when they're at high school, coming out to the college football level. Yes, NIL certainly plays a part in the modern day recruitment, but don't get it twisted. Like, they still want to go win championships and they want to go to the NFL. And when you have Wink Martindale on the recruiting trail who has a Super Bowl ring on his finger, I think that is going to mean massive things for recruiting some of these guys out of the high school ranks. So you want to go to the NFL? Yeah, I've coached at the NFL. I've won a Super Bowl in the NFL. I know what it takes to get there. I know what it looks like, and I know how to win there. And so I wonder if that plays a role in recruiting as well. So I don't have as big of question marks in terms of how Wink Martindale can recruit as maybe some other people. Now, we'll find out in the next couple months on the recruiting trail, but I think he could be a very good recruiter at the college football level because of that NFL background. Now, the second question mark you have is how long is he going to be at the college level, right? This is a guy that probably wants to be at the NFL. And my question or my answer to that is, if this is a good hire, this is a guy that comes in for 2 years, probably does a phenomenal job, probably gets hired back to the NFL in 2 years. And we kind of have this conversation. If your candidates or your coordinators are not getting outside opportunities to elevate, you're probably making bad hires. Again, you go back to Nick Saban, Kirby Smart, there's a reason that his assistants always get poached for bigger jobs because they make good hires. And you're seeing Michigan start to do that the last couple of years. You go back to the days where Michigan really struggled. When was the last time coordinators were getting promotions on that Michigan staff? It wasn't happening because we weren't making the good hires. We weren't making the right hires. The last couple of years, guys like Jesse Minter, Mike McDonald were making the good hires, and those guys are moving up. Sherrone Moore, I mean, he obviously got elevated to being a head coach of the Michigan program. And so my concern with Wink Martindale maybe leaving after 2 years is, yeah, that might happen. But I think also you have Steve Clinkscale, who's hanging around for 2 more years. He's probably going to be a really top candidate to maybe be the next defensive coordinator if Wink Martindale does leave. At the end of the day, you look to replace Jesse Minter, Mike McDonald, 2 phenomenal defensive coordinators that we've had. You just went out and got the defensive coordinator that they both worked for. In my mind, home run hire. Really excited about it. Would love to hear from you guys as well. Again, appreciate all the support you guys have shown. It's been a blast the last couple of days and weeks covering this search. Can't thank y'all enough. If you guys do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel, and we'll talk to y'all later.